Hello. Guten Morgen. Hi, hi. Let's see. Shrink that. How's everyone this morning? Good, good. And Anat's coming on, so it's evening for her. Hello, Anat. Although I see light up behind you again, that's good.
Not for long. Yes,
A
not
big
for
old
long.
smile. What's that?
It's not for long. It's
Not.
nearly dark. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just gonna pop something in the chat. I'd say for those of you who are on right now, don't read it because it's gonna be well, you can read it if you want to. It's like, don't put your hand in the cookie jar. Don't get any cookies in the cookie jar. It's going to be sort of the guidance for today. And what I decided to do is I'll do my best to remember to do this for anyone coming in late. That way, if we're in silence just for like a while, they at least have something to follow. So if you want to just be surprised, then don't look at the chat right now. And if it doesn't really matter to you, then you can go ahead and look at the chat. But I'm just going to pop in a little guidance for this morning. Oops, why does that happen? That's the website. I don't want that. Just a moment. All right, let's see if we can capture that. Back to Zoom. Yes. Okay. There we go. All right. Let's let Judith in. And I'm really excited because, well, the thing I wanted to have us do today, it's already happening for me over here, which was unexpected. So you'll get it in just a second. Well, it's good to see everybody this morning. And in case you have to leave early, this is going to be our last session for about a month. I'll be in Israel for a couple weeks after this, and then just settling back in the week after that. So anyway, so yeah, just a little reminder. If I have my wits about me, I'll make sure to turn the reminders off, but you might still get a reminder to say, hey, come to the bird sit this morning. So that just means I just have forgotten to turn them off, but we'll resume in what is it, March, April, May. So May we'll start again. And yeah, so just go ahead and find yourself a nice cozy place to sit, inside or outside. I think everybody has been here before. If you're inside, just go ahead and crack a window so you can hear or see what's happening outside. Let me see, most all of you, it looks like it's relatively sunny for everybody. Is that right? Anyone have like a dark, cloudy day today? Yes, Claudia has a dark, cloudy day. Okay, Claudia, you're gonna do the alternate version of this one today because this kind of relies on a sunny day, which is why I have the alternate. And the alternate is something we're all going to do anyway, but just sort of later in the sit. So for Claudia or anyone else who has a cloudy day today, you're going to do the alternate for yours. All right, so we'll just start by getting ourselves grounded to begin with, and then I'll explain what we're going to play around with today. So let yourself just feel your connection to the earth around you. And in the greater sense, whether it's the sort of solid or not always so solid ground beneath your feet, beneath your body right now, or if it's the larger earth all around you. So just take a moment and notice what that feels like to remember and connect with the earth right now. And sometimes when you're doing that, it can be helpful to maybe name or acknowledge certain individuals that you might see. So maybe speaking to the trees, just acknowledging your connection to them, to the grasses, to the leaves, the birds, maybe the mammals, to the sky and the stars above, to the wind and the clouds. Whatever it is that's in your experience today, maybe it's cactus, depending on where you're zooming in from. Just take a moment to acknowledge that connection. And now start to become aware of your heart rate and your heartbeat inside your chest, noticing if it's shifted at all since you first sat down, if you were aware of your heartbeat when you first sat down. And if not, this is the first sort of awareness that you have of it. Then just notice what your own rhythm is right now in this time. And so, as we always do, find something to set your gaze on, usually far away, but you can go a little bit closer today if you want to. Maybe there's a tree nearby. And just if it is something a little bit closer, make sure you find a specific point on that tree or building or whatever it is that you're looking at that you can really focus on. And then once you've got your point, as if you just dropped a pebble on that point and everything else around it was water, you're just going to slowly allow your eyes and your gaze to soften in an outward motion. So you drop that pebble on that one point, and then everything just starts to soften in concentric rings around that point. And just let those ripples expand further and further and further out. Just allowing everything to become soft. And as you do this, notice your breath. And notice what rhythm your own breath has right now. How shallow or how deep your breath may be. And on your next exhale, just go ahead and allow all of the air to leave your body. Just really push it out intentionally when you get to the bottom of your breath. And then you can take a nice deep inhale in, filling your lungs completely, allowing your lower belly to soften as you do that. Especially us women, we like to suck in our belly, and that can become quite a habit for us to keep our belly tight. So just allow your belly to soften, allow the rest of your body to soften, and your breath to become deep and full. Filling every little crevice that you can possibly fill inside your lungs, noticing how far down into your body your lungs expand. And now with your gaze still softened and your awareness on your rhythm of your breath, now start to bring in some of the sounds that you're hearing. And you can begin first this time with the quiet sounds. So choose a soft sound, something that is audible, but kind of soft right now. Maybe a more subtle sound. And just give your attention to that sound right now. As if you could feel that sound, as if it had a texture, just allowing yourself to really go deep with that one particular sound. What is the texture of that sound? How does it feel? What's its shape? And now you can add on to that a sound that's a little bit louder, noticing what direction it's coming from, how far away it might be, comparing the quality of this new sound to the softer, subtler sound. And is there a relationship between these two sounds? Do they interact with one another, or are they really individual and separate? So while you're allowing yourself, we'll take in one additional sound. You can get even louder this time. So the next sort of decibel level up, noticing what you're hearing. And allowing yourself to consider the relationship between the three sounds that you're hearing in this moment. And as you just allow yourself to settle in to the sights that you're seeing in your softened vision, to sounds that you're hearing in all levels, and the smells that are in the air, now start to just pick up the gentle and subtle sensations, and maybe not so subtle, that you might be feeling on your skin. Can you feel what direction the wind is coming from, just by how it's gracing over your skin? What angle the sun is at, based on where you can feel it on your skin, if you have the sun around you today. And any other sensations that your skin might be picking up right now. Okay, so the first part of our practice this morning, if you're someone who is in a sunny place and you have some shadows outside or around you, if you're already outside, I want you to go ahead and bring your attention to those shadows. So you might have to look on the ground. Some of you who have a fence around you, maybe you can look on the fence or a rock wall. Whatever is the most sort of distinct shadow that you can see. Ideally, if it's a tree, that's awesome, or a shrub. Because what we're going to be looking for is the motion that happens on the shadow or around the shadows. So we're not going to be looking specifically at the birds today, just for this short little period of time, but rather we're going to be looking for their motion in the shadows. And now for those of you who don't have shadows today, you're going to do the alternate or second part of this exercise. And this one was inspired by Dan Gardoki this morning. If you're part of the birdsong class, you might have seen his Facebook posts, and I really liked it. So I thought I would add it for us. And those of you who are looking at the shadows right now, we will get to this. We'll do this in the second half. So you can just let yourself focus on the shadows for now. But everyone else who doesn't have a shadow around you, I want you to listen for a sound that's really familiar to you. So listen for a bird sound, if you've got them around you, that's really familiar, like a crow or a robin or whatever it is that you, for in your own world, find very familiar. And what I want you to do is listen for something new from that bird. So a sound that you've never heard before. So you're going to spend the next little while during our sit listening for a sound that you've never heard before from this bird. And I'll add one other alternate to that. If you are someone who doesn't have shadows around you, or for some reason doesn't have any birds singing right now, You can either find a sound in nature or even your own refrigerator and listen for a sound that you've never heard from that tree or your refrigerator. And so we're going to stay sitting like this for about the next 5 or 6 minutes. And so we'll just be in silence. And shadow watchers, you can just allow yourself to really just gaze at the shadows. And you don't have to just look at one. You can kind of gaze around if you'd like to, but try and keep your attention on the shadows for this very first part. All right, I'll let you know when the first part is complete. And I'll just add for those of you who are watching shadows that, and even those of you who are listening, that staying in owl eyes or this softened vision can be really helpful when you're doing this practice. So when you're looking at the shadows, just try to keep your eyes as soft as possible. Okay. Well, the nice part about part two is that if you were a shadow watcher and you're enjoying that, you can continue to watch the shadows and watch for movement, seeing if you can identify a bird simply by its shadow. But now you're going to layer onto that this alternate exercise that was inspired by Dan Gardoki this morning, and that is to find a familiar sound of a bird, ideally, and try to find a sound that that bird is making that you've never heard it make before. And so you can do this with a couple different birds today, but just start with one and stay with that bird for as long as you can. And we'll do this for the remainder of our practice. So, I don't know, about 6 or 7 minutes or so. And just really let yourself listen deeply to that one sound, that one bird. And then if you want to shift to another sound, you can. Good work, everybody. So take the next minute and offer gratitude or thanks to those that you connected with today, whatever sounds or sights you happen to see and build relationship with today. Just offer your own sense of thanks. All right. So if anyone needs to head out, you're welcome to do so. Thank you for joining us today. And anyone who wants to stay for our chat, we'll be chatting a little bit. Yeah, Jermaine's all ready to go. Yeah, let's hear what you have to say. Oh, she's waving goodbye. I thought she wanted to share. I was like, she's on it. Okay. Yeah. See you, Jackie. So yeah, I'm just curious what, if anything came up for anybody and if anyone wants to share what they saw or heard or whatever it may be. Yeah, Julia, go for it.
I'll get things started here. There's very little bird activity going on this morning. So, but I'm seated near my water feature where I can look down on a little water coming out, dropping a little bit, swirling around, and then going on down. And I noticed that the water makes shadows on the bottom. It's a rock bottom, and as the water comes out and there are ripples going out, and in this case also there's a little swirling around, and it's like a kaleidoscope. If I look not at the water but I look at the surface underneath it, I see these shadows, and it's just beautiful. I never noticed that water makes shadows.
Whoa, that must have been so mesmerizing. You could just get lost in that all day long. Wow. Oh, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I love hearing about the different depths where people can go with whatever we practice. Thanks, Julia. That's awesome. Who else has something they want to offer or share from your practice today? Yeah, Linda, go for it. Oops, I think you're muted. Let's see. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Sure can. Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Well, it's a little bit, it took me a kind of a different direction than I think was the intention, but first I heard the cardinals in your area, and I love cardinals. I grew up with cardinals. We don't have cardinals in Montana, so whenever I hear a cardinal, I'm just like, whoa, I just focus on it. And I heard your cardinals saying different things, singing different things than I'd heard before. I'm not 100% sure it was a cardinal because you had some other birds that were in the background there too. But anyway, that's where I noticed a difference. It's pretty quiet here. It's really cold, and it's there's no sun today, and so the birds are quieter right at the moment. But while we were doing our practice with the owl eyes, 5 or 6 white-breasted nuthatches flew in to my feeders. And we don't have white-breasted nuthatches here very often. We have the pygmies and we have the red-breasted. But there were 5 or 6 of them. And oh, another one just came back. They're on the suet feeders.
Oh yeah.
And they were making these sweet little sounds, nuthatch sounds. So I was able to hear them. I didn't hear them say anything different. They just hung out at the suet feeders for a while. But it was just really exciting to see them because I hardly ever see them here, and so anyway, so it was really it was really wonderful. It was like a little symphony that I heard this morning. This morning was the first morning when I woke up too that I heard any singing of birds in the early morning. Like about 6:30, 6:45. I heard some house finches outside. So
Wow.
so that's kind of that was my hodgepodge of experience
Yeah,
this morning.
that's awesome. And I'm glad that you're hearing birdsong in the morning again. I know for those of you who've been deep in snow and winter that yeah, it's It almost feels like it's never going to end. So I'm glad to
Mhm.
hear that. And I thought I had myself on mute. Could all of you guys hear my birds? I'm so sorry if that's the case. No? Yes?
I did. I heard the birds, I heard the cardinal, and I heard the background, but I heard it before you went on mute. I heard it before you.
Okay, good. I thought
Yeah.
anyway, so I try to mute myself when we're doing our sit so that you guys can have your own experience. Okay, great. That's good to know. Well, thanks for sharing that, Linda. And also just how fun to know that the nuthatches, the white-breasted nuthatches are coming and you get to hear the little interaction calls. Yeah,
Yeah. It's
that's
very
right.
cool.
Yay. Claudia, yeah, go for it.
Okay, yes. I was listening, I think it was the house sparrows who were making so much noise. And so I don't think I heard anything I hadn't heard before, but it was just fun to listen to all the different sounds they made during that little bit of time. And I sit here at this table that has a glass top. And so instead of looking for shadows, I looked at reflections. And that was cool because you see the birds from a different angle. And, I can see further up in the tree from there. And of course, I'm seeing more of what flies over. So that's a neat way to look at it. It's like when you look at a painting instead of a photograph and you're just seeing the same scene differently. But anyway, I was seeing it differently. But I have to tell you real quick, I got to 2 weeks ago, last week or 2 weeks ago, whichever one it was. Yeah, it was just last week. I got to go to the release of the young bald eagle that our group had found, and they'd taken him to rehabilitation. I don't remember if I told you about that. But anyway, over 2 months ago, we'd found this bald eagle when we were out on a birding trip, a group of us. And anyway, took it to rehab because it was very sick. It turned out it had lead poisoning. And last Saturday, we got to be there for its release, and it was so exciting.
Wow. Did it just take off or did it
It did. He
for a
was so anxious to go. He was just, boy, as soon as they took the lid off of that cage, he was out of there.
Yeah, and just like fly far away, or did he fly to a tree?
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
The rehabber said, we're picking this time in this place because we were on these hills above a reservoir, and the
Okay.
thermals
Yeah.
were really good at that time
Uh-huh.
and place. And so, boy, he just took off and rode those and woo, and
Oh.
went.
He
It
probably
was
has a
really,
girlfriend somewhere and he's like, I gotta get back to my girl.
yeah, well, it was quite a ways. I don't know how far
Yeah.
he would have gone, but he was just a
Wow.
young one, probably a little bit over a year old, something like that.
Okay.
But he was beautiful. It was so fun. And something I didn't know was they replaced his tail. Somehow the tail feathers had been injured, and so they put the tail feathers from, I think it was a ferruginous hawk who had signed his donor card. So when he died, anyway, so they took that tail and replaced his tail feathers.
Wow.
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I
Well,
imagine they'll just fall out when they and get molted at some
yeah,
point. But
yeah,
I did not know they could do that. That's
yeah, I didn't either.
So it was like a bald eagle with a ferruginous tail. Oh, that would really mess some birders up. That's so
I know.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love doing that. Wow. Gosh, science is amazing. Dang. Thanks, Claudia, for sharing that. Love hearing that.
It was so exciting.
Yeah. Thanks for the follow-up on your story. Thanks. Cool. Anyone else want to share their morning experience with us? Yeah, go for it, Della.
Yeah, sure. I stayed with the shadows because we had lots of shadows this morning. And it reminded me of Alfred Hitchcock, film noir, watching a shadow. And then I had a jay back here that was alarming. And it was really interesting, right out of the movies.
That's wild. Did you ever see what the jay was alarming at? Like, did
I
the
didn't.
shadows reveal
He's
anything?
back behind. I'm inside and it's back behind me, but I could hear him. I've got the window cracked and I could see the little hummingbirds go to the feeder. I couldn't see the feeder, but I could see their shadows.
Yeah.
And so I knew where they were going. And then across the street, there were acorn woodpeckers.
Okay.
So and there were van-tailed pigeons, and I could see all their shadows. That was really interesting.
Yeah. Were you able to figure out who was who based on their shadows, do you think?
I don't think it was so much based on their shadows, but I knew the locations.
Uh-huh.
And so it didn't surprise me when I looked through my binoculars and saw and confirmed what it was. But the shadows just told me where they were.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, what inspired me to do this was the other day, I don't know, I was just staring at the shadows of something and I saw this motion, the way it was sort of like dunk, 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 dunk. Anyone know what that might be? It was going up, it was like dunk, 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 dunk. What bird moves like that when it lands in a tree? Think about a bird just flying and landing, and then all of a sudden go dunk, 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 dunk.
Going up the tree. Mm.
Any images come to mind?
I've seen it before, but I cannot think of the bird.
Okay. Anyone else? No? It was a jay. So that's a really classic jay movement, you know, where they land in a tree and then they'll kind of it's like they're climbing a ladder, you know, they sort of doop 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 and they just go higher and higher until they get to wherever they want to go. And yeah, and I saw that but I could see it in the tree and I was like, oh, I bet that's a jay. And I looked up and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's a jay, you know, and I just yeah, just all these different ways that we can interact with the world and know the world around us without having to necessarily like see the actual individual. It's always nice to have confirmation, of course, but you know, each bird has sort of its own unique and special way of moving and flying and landing. And the deeper and more we get to build relationship with these birds, the more we can know all of that, you know? Yeah. All right, anyone else have a story they want to share from this morning? The birds, Claudia, that's awesome. Okay, well, keep playing with that one, I think, for this week, and with the shadows and also the sounds. I think that was a really good one that Dan shared today, because yeah, for me, it's funny, I came out here and I sat for a little while before we started our call, and there was this interesting crow sound that was just, it was almost like it was barking. And pretty much almost the whole time during our sit, it was making this kind of like bark. It's still kind of going over there, just sort of like barking from like one spot in a tree. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's a crow, not 100% sure, but it just has me like scratching my head, like, why would it just be doing that up there? And it doesn't sound really like an alarm necessarily, and no one else is doing anything in response to it. And I have no idea. Now it's like, he has me so curious, like, what's it seeing? What's it interacting? Why is it doing that? You know? So I'm really glad for the prompt. And I was not expecting it to work right away, you know, to have a crow that's making a sound I'd never heard. So it's really fun to play with that, especially with the birds we've become really familiar with and we think we know them, you know? Yeah. Well, it's so good to see you all, and have a beautiful month. And I'm excited to share stories and hear your stories. We're going to be in a whole different world in May when I come back. Everyone's going to have a new world all around them, songs and babies and maybe no snow for some people, and who knows. But I wish you all the best, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you.
A wonderful time.
Safe travels.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Yeah, and Miss Anat, if you have a moment and you want to stay.
Yes. Thank you.
All right, everybody. See you next time.
Happy trails.
Happy trails.